Okay, so since the last video I did on this, I did the texture originally, then I did the oranges, and then I went away and did some blue. So as you can see, we've got this kind of cobalt, ultramarine, sort of strong blue that contrasts, obviously complementary of orange. I did some abstract marks which very loosely sort of guide me into the direction I want to go for the interior. So the interior I abstract naturally. I look at the shapes and the forms of the composition, and I go in with a very loose impression where I want to go. Already you can see these very vertical streaks going on down here, depicted by the blue, which I will go in with more of a darker blue now, just to highlight the specific areas of the geometric shapes where I want to go with it. Also, if you see, there's another couple of yellows, like a mustardy yellow and a more of a thicker orangey yellow, which was one of the original colours I used in the first video. And again, that sort of sandwiches in the blue, so the blue's not so dominant, it's pushed back behind the yellow, and then you get these interesting grooved marks where I've scraped away the paint, and you get these slightly greeny shades, which is kind of a bit dirty, and it's kind of what I want. I like kind of raw effects. I like playing around with strengths of colour, real saturated colour, but I also like dirty, muddy colours as well. And this is a perfect ground to work on. So already I can see an interior building here. You've got a bit of perspective, you've got these diagonal lines coming in, and then you've got this like oval shape coming in here. We've got this circle, this is going to be the centre, obviously, with the aisleway of the bus in this instance. And then we've got these vertical lines coming over here, and then we've got these more jagged horizontal lines depicting maybe where the seats are, but it's very abstract, and I don't want to be too figurative with this. I don't want it to be too realistic. I still want to keep these forms alive. So when I start going in with more acrylic, or obviously the last phases, the second half of the painting will be oil going over the acrylic, I might leave some of these raw kind of acrylic brighter areas alone and just leave them as that, because I want the yellow and some of the blues to really influence the piece tonally. So all I've done, I've mixed some more of this blue. Now it's slightly different. I've got some black in it. I've got a bit more ultramarine. I've slightly made it stronger. And what I'm going to do with this, I'm just going to mark out areas where certain sections are going to be a little bit more figuratively. So I'm going to keep some areas. I think I like this circle. I think I might just leave that the way it is. But for example, we've got this light on the left-hand side, that's depicted by this vertical line here. But we've got a vertical orange, but I want to depict it a bit more, highlight that a little bit more, and I'm going to come down there like that. And already we've got something going on, and very loosely we've got another diagonal line, which again is where the light sort of ends there. And I think what I'm going to do, I'm just going to pull that down here. So notice I'm being very sort of simple with it. I'm not adding any detail. Again, it's just sort of creating this sort of geometric formations of the composition, and where things are going to go loosely. Now, being a representational artist, it's difficult to abstract things so much that you cannot see the representation. I like to dabble with both realism and abstract. I love both styles. I like something in the middle, so it doesn't look too realistic, but at the same time can relate to the real. If it's completely abstract, it kind of sometimes bores me. I like seeing some representation. Okay, so what I'm doing, I'm just looking at my reference. I'm looking at the basic forms I want. I'm not going to lose, for example, I'm not going to lose this. I'm not going to lose this area. I kind of like that the way it is. When I do the light source, I might leave some of those areas in. This already, you can see also the windows on the right hand side. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to depict something coming from here. So this is like the thickness of the post, the bar in the middle of the bus there, coming down. And that's going to go all the way down, so I'm just going to get low loads of blue there. And I'm not being too careful about it because this is just a guideline of where I want things. These seats here, I like the way they are. And the perspective I play with, so sometimes like that, the line is accurate in its perspective of everything going into the distance, like the windows getting smaller as they go in, but other lines, for example this line is incorrect, but I'm going to keep it incorrect because I want to play around with the perspective and play around the perception of the viewer. So the interior is more of a subconscious existential experience. So when you look at one of my interiors, I want you to feel the interior, you want to feel the presence of the shapes, but I want you to feel the presence of the shapes more than the actual physicality of what it is. I don't want it just to be an illustration or a depiction of a train. I want you to almost feel subconsciously you're kind of boxed in the train. And the colours, a lot of the time, don't necessarily represent the real colours. It's again, it's all about the mind's perception on reality and things like that. I like that. And already it's looking much better in my estimation. Some areas I'm just going to get rid of, like for example this. I'm going to just block that in with the blue. And what I am going to do, they're quite thickly painted there, that box, and I'm just going to just scrape in like that. And already that's a focal point, so that might be something to sort of direct as a focal point for the composition. There's a lot going on over here. We've got all these grooves made by the yellow and the greeny effects, this leading into it, and then you got that. I might play around with pastel and create other textures later on. But at the moment, I'm just going to keep to the blue, just in this section now. We've got lots of reflections up here in the actual image. So what we can do is probably get a form in like that. Again, playing around. This is accurate perspective against inaccurate. So that is an inaccurate line. Perspective of the bars, I should be going this way, but I'm going to ignore that. I just want them nice and vertical at the moment. Because I like this so much, I'm going to make it pop and do a big curve around there. So that's really heightening that. So at the moment it's looking pretty good. I don't want to do anything more to it in relation to this blue. I think I might just so it's a bit more of a combination of blue and yellow. In those areas, this light picked in a little bit more, bold outline. And I always try and direct my focal point kind of in the middle somewhere and make the edges a little bit more ambiguous because you want to direct the viewer into the image a little bit. So I really don't like this thing over here, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to scrape that away. I've said this before, if you don't like something and it's a mistake, just get rid of it, or play around with getting rid of it. For example, this is a mistake line, and usually mistakes are a good thing because they make your painting look rough and ready, and you don't want, well personally I don't want my paintings to look clean, like they've been thought about. I like looking at a work and thinking of how the artist did it, the process, the journey in a way. A journey is never something that's smooth and just goes forward. You have trials and tribulations, you revise things, you make errors, and you, so with any journey, whether you're writing or anything like that. So really what I've done, I've just scraped a lot of that out. I'll keep in mind of that later on. I'll probably go with yellow. What I will do, I'll probably just do probably come in to a point. Do not want my paintings to look, you know, too polished. So the start of the painting, I started with texture. I'm continuing building texture. What I will be doing after this is going in with maybe pastel, something like that. I might do that in a second, and then getting some more acrylic colours, maybe some greys or some greyish blues, and then I'll be going with oil in a later video. But already I can see a lot going on of shapes, interesting shapes, and the composition I can play around with. And any dividing lines, which I do want, but I don't particularly want to depict them all with paint because that'll be boring. I don't want everything to look the same. I'm going to go in with pastel and depict some other areas where later on I can come back to and leave if I want to. But again, you can really see these pastel marks that have been quite raw up against the acrylic. This is just a crayon, Inktense Derwent. I usually use Conte crayon. So it depends what you want to do really. I mean, I think pastels, oil pastels I'll stay away from, but I would keep to, I said the Conte crayon. I think that's absolutely fine. Now I'm going with the blue here, but I might dabble with the black. So we've got some black Conte crayon here. I'm not going to do much, I'm just going to sort of depict some lines I might want to think about later on. This is really interesting over here. I'm going to keep this like this for a while, but other areas aren't looking so interesting. I keep looking at my reference and go, well, might just want to go in certain areas with just the palette knife. Just create some built up areas of the blue where you want the blue to dominate more. Create some interesting texture there with the yellow. So at the moment it's just a balance between the yellow, the orange and the blue. And then we're going to go in with the greys and the slightly more realistic tones later on. So lots I don't really like about this painting, there's lots I do. It's the same thing, any abstract, there's areas where I go, well, I'm just going to score that. Don't really like how this is looking a bit boring, rugged. Not rugged, but I'm talking about a bit sort of formulaic. So I'm going to do, I'm just going to scrape a bit of that away. That blue up there. Keep an eye on, you don't want to detract away from focal points. This is a focal point. I would say that's a focal point. And this is a very subtle shape I want to keep going throughout the composition. So I'm going to leave it there. That's really good. That's really good progression. I'm going to leave it there. The next colours are going to be slowly, a bit like what I do with my tutorials really, in a different way, slowly going into more realistic colours in a sense, but going step by step, so not making any real extreme jumps. So the next stage I'll probably start implementing some of the greys, yellowy greys, bluey greys into the composition, making it look a bit more like the interior of a bus, but then those yellows and those oranges and of course these blues are still going to be very relevant in the composition's tonal sort of schemes, kind of values, and that's going to really come through the gaps of the geometric shapes. So yeah, keep tuned, and I'll keep you updated with this one. And I'll let you know, obviously, when we do the oil, I'll be going with more thicker paint, more impasto techniques. Even so, more so than what we've got here. And obviously, oil is a lot more raw in its texture, and you can do a lot more with it. It stays wet longer, so I like to use a balance of oil and acrylic, so you get those really striking bright colours of the acrylic, but then you get those raw tones and the expressions of the oil working alongside it. So yeah, so I'll speak to you soon. Thank you.